Made on Zencaster.
Hello and welcome to Be a B2B Leader. I'm your host Felicjan and I'm a marketing manager that wants to learn more about business, marketing and leadership. Today my guest is Steffen Hedebrandt, the Chief Marketing Officer and co-founder of Dreamdata, where they help companies solve one of the biggest problems in B2B, revenue attribution. In this episode, we'll learn why sales and marketing need each other and what is the key to alignment of those teams. Steffen will also share what is the main revenue driver in today's organizations. So, let's get started. Hi Steffen, and welcome to the show.
Hi Felicjan, and thanks for having me here.
So, let's jump straight in. Please tell me, what should every B2B leader know about sales and marketing?
I think every B2B leader should know that it works much better when both teams are aligned and trying to play the same game. What I mean by that is that you want to avoid having these two silos that, when they do stuff, they're actually not working towards the same goals, or they're incentivized to do different things and don't know the value of each other. And things become so much more effective when you understand why is the sales team doing like this? Who do they like to sell to? What is marketing doing? Who are they trying to attract? Does that match who people in sales like to talk to, and so forth?
And do you think that the problem exists partly because companies always start with building the sales department first before they even invest in marketing?
I think that differs a little bit from company to company. I think one of the big problems is the nature of a B2B journey. It can be quite long and complex and have many people involved. And it's quite easy for the sales team to prove their value because they get a contract signed and everybody in the organization can see now the customer signed this contract. The marketing team typically, their activities lie much earlier in the journey, maybe 3 months, 6 months earlier than when the contract is signed. And then it's harder to both prove and claim the value of your activity if you don't have anything that kind of connects. We did these things and now you sold 6 months later. Yeah. So I think that the nature of it just makes it a little bit easier to appreciate the sales team rather than the marketing team.
Yeah, and I think it's also why many business leaders don't recognize the power that marketing has, because it's difficult to track those things. And sometimes, like let's say the design, like you can't attribute a client to solely the design that you have. Yeah. But everybody knows that once you have a clear design that's neat and appeals to your audience, people will be more likely to buy from you. So
yeah, I agree.
And what would you say? What's the key step for growth if we want to align both sales and marketing?
If I reflect upon what has worked really, really well at Dreamdata is to have a very clear definition of who is the ideal customer for our product and our company, which is something that both the salespeople, the marketing people, the product people, the customer success people all should be aware about and agree upon, so that all the day-to-day activities can be taken up against this definition of who is our ideal customers. So an example could be, who's marketing trying to attract? Well, it's the people that we have agreed is the people we have to attract. Yeah. Who are the product team building for? Well, they're building to our ideal customer profile. And who's the salespeople trying to sell to? They're aligning that towards our ideal customer profile as well. So I would say, like, if you haven't established kind of who is your ideal customer, that would be my step one advice for any organization. And it sounds like a simple exercise, but it can actually be very painful sometimes to actually say, okay, we're not, like, somebody's knocking at the door, but we're not going to answer it because it's completely going to mislead our product if we sign these guys, or they're going to churn in a quarter because the CS team will never be able to make them happy. So I think both, yeah, it can be, sometimes it's actually easier to start with an antithesis of who you should sell to. So you can make a list of who are we not selling to. Like for our case, it's we're only selling B2B. So don't even try to sell to a B2C company. So these different lists of these are definitely not people you should be selling to. That can really help align the organization, and then join that together with what is the ideal customer. Then
Yeah.
if you enforce this, then slowly everybody starts pulling in the same direction.
Yeah. Like I've seen that way too many times that the CEO or someone from sales, they want to go after everyone because you have a product that can be used by everyone, or a service.
Yeah.
But once you narrow down your focus, you will have much better results. That's the truth, and
Yeah.
everybody should recognize that.
But it is, it's sometimes you also have to be practical. Like if you need the money, then sign the contract.
Exactly.
But then, like in better times, then be very deliberate about how you do things.
Yeah. So you said that step one is having a clear ICP, and
Yeah.
what is step two?
Step two, I guess, what I know best then would be to talk about the marketing activities. And I think there's a couple of things I would drill into here. One is I would start to think about our ideal customer profile, and think about where on the internet can our ideal, or where in the world are our ideal customer expressing intent for purchasing a product like ours right now.
Mhm.
So that could be people searching on Google. I want to buy X piece of software. It can be people reading reviews of different, like for us, it's software. If they're reading reviews, they're quite far in making a decision. It can be different kind of marketplaces for technology. So, for example, inside HubSpot's marketplace, if you're looking for an analytics product
Yeah.
there, you're quite far again. So, like, think through where in the world and on the internet can people express like an active buying intent, and start
Yeah.
covering those. Like, if I was starting from scratch, that would be my focus one.
Yeah. And how do you find out where they hang out? So do you use tools like SparkToro, or is it more about customer interviews?
Yeah, I would say even more like basics. Like, I think if you a brainstorm in your team will take you quite far. Like write down what is your hypothesis of where are these people.
Yeah.
That will and then start testing that. Then I don't think you need. Obviously, there's tools that are great for this, but I think just do like a company brainstorm about where is it that we need to be present.
Yeah. Because your teams interact with those people, so they should be more or less aware of that.
You don't need a perfect answer. You just need to a start, and like I'm sure you can identify some good places.
Yeah.
A way to think about it is also that, like, there's this book Seth Godin wrote that is called Tribes,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of what is a tribe and how does it look and how can you become the leader of it. And I think it's actually a really good marketing tactic to think this way, because most companies in the world doesn't have unlimited ad budgets, so we
Mm-hmm.
can't kind of boil the ocean and just like have ads everywhere. We need to be very deliberate about where we are present, and where we are present should be very much steered by the ideal customer profile. So if let's say we're surfers, or like surfers is our ideal customer profile, then there's probably a few professional competition going on every year. There's a few magazines. There's a lot of influencers. There's board producers, and like once you start understanding the tribe, then you also know the places you will need to be present. And very typically, it doesn't need a really large advertising budget, because you're just there whenever this tribe gets together, and suddenly you can look omnipresent at a relatively low budget.
Yeah. I love this answer. I absolutely love it. But one point that comes to mind, what do you think about employee advocacy programs and personal branding inside smaller companies to create those influencers in those niches?
So it's something we do a lot at Dreamdata. You probably have also seen that, but I think it depends on, again, who are you trying to get in contact with. We're trying to get a hold of B2B marketers, and you know, B2B marketers spend half their day on LinkedIn, so that's why for us it's a very effective tactic. But if you're perhaps more like brick and mortar businesses, or like, a lot of developers don't like spending time on LinkedIn, so then employee advocacy at least gets hard on LinkedIn. I don't know if you can do similar stuff on GitHub or Twitch or other places, but in general, I think it's a great tactic, because it can get you in front of the right people. Whether the tactic works particularly in your whatever industry you're in, you will need to like test it and see if it works out.
Yeah, like it's always about picking the right tactics for your needs. And yeah, like I'm a huge advocate for empowering employees to build their personal brands and to just
Yeah.
be active. Because let's face it, at one point everyone will leave a company and they will go further. And if they have
Yeah.
a positive experience with your brand, then they will just refer friends to you, etc. So
Yeah. I think the thing with that is that you just need to treat your employees as well as you can while they're with you, and then at some point they'll get another job, and
yeah,
that's just how life is.
yeah. And
But if we can then start stacking upon what I said. So one is the ideal customer profile. Secondly, you can start mapping where is my ideal customer in the world on the internet. And then thirdly, then if we go by the book, then you should start writing down what are all the ideas now to reach these people that you have. And then you would score them maybe on a 2, 3, 4 components. Like, is it cheap to do? Is it easy to do? Is it scalable? What does your gut feeling say? And then you score them from, let's say, just 1 to 5. And if you do this in a structured manner, then you'll have a long list of ideas. And then also in your team, you have ranked the ideas of what is good and bad. And then you should start taking those that seems like lowest impact, highest effort,
Mhm.
and then try it out, see how it goes. And after a week or a month or a quarter, you return back to the list and say, is this still the list that we want to come about, or should we come up with new ideas and try other stuff? But I really feel that if you run a like systematically grow, then you need to kind of add the structure to it, that write down the ideas, you actually rational think about what is the best ideas, you try them out, see how do they work in the real life, and once you know that, then you decide upon whether to scale or stop something.
Yeah. And do you think that content should be the main revenue driver in today's organizations?
No, not necessarily. I'm not married to any growth tactic.
Yeah.
Like whatever works, just keep repeating that. So that, to me, it's more like, industries vary, people's skills vary. So like structurally test all sorts of different stuff, and then once you find something that works, that could be content, SEO, or ads, or outbound
Mhm.
phone calls, or whatever it is, then start scaling things.
Yeah.
And I think that there's important where balance here you need to keep is then that is kind of, you can't experiment 100% of the times.
Mhm.
You need to kind of, the things that works are the things you need to scale.
Yeah.
And then for 10 or 20% of the budget, you can experiment trying to find new sources of growth. But if you
Yeah.
shift away from what's working, then you don't have any funds to try the
Yeah.
experiments. And I've done that in my past. So I'm just putting it out in the warning that don't constantly throw around the budget, like
Yeah.
sustain the things you know are working. So you have kind of an engine running. And then but then also do constantly experiment with small things, so you have your next idea if you suddenly exhaust a channel, or
Yeah.
LinkedIn throws you off the platform or whatever, then you have a new tactic you can get a hold of instead.
Yeah, like I think that's often the case with search advertising, that people scale it to the maximum and at one point they start just burning budget,
Yeah,
even though they should, yeah, let's say cut 10% of the budget and put it into something new, like let's say a
yeah.
podcast or anything, and it will yield better results.
Yeah.
But yeah, how do you identify which content works actually?
So I think there's two ways to address this question, and then there's the qualitative aspect of whenever you share it somewhere in Slack channels or on LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, wherever you
Hmm.
share it, you can see that people engage with it, like people liking it, commenting on it, sharing it, um, hearing anecdotes about it on sales calls or when
Hmm.
demo calls are booked. I think that is kind of the first thing I would focus on, like just taking a
Yeah.
lot of screenshots whenever you see great feedback to your content, because it is there's the kind of these leading and lagging indicators. So it's
Hmm.
the first signs that you produce some content that is great. It is that there's good engagement and you can see people consume it. The lagging indicator, which is also the important one, is that you need to be able to kind of prove that this early engagement also leads uh, to producing sales pipeline or producing
Hmm.
deals that you actually get signed. And this can be more complex. You can buy a tool like Dreamdata that solves this for you, or you can come up with several like build it yourself solutions. I think something that is not unreasonable to do if you're on a lower tech budget, then just start understanding. You need to identify a proxy for what becomes revenue, and at best you can always explain how did we win this deal, but maybe you can only explain how did it enter the sales pipeline, or maybe you can only just explain how did they book a demo call, or even earlier, how did they arrive at the website. So what I'm trying to say is like find something that is early and something that you can prove. So that could be you trying to look at the blog posts that produce demo calls that gets booked. So it could be somebody arrives at this blog post that they found through Google, and then they go and book a demo.
Hmm. And
So typically,
yeah,
if you increase the amount of demo calls that comes in, then a couple of months later, then you make more money.
yeah, like it should work like that.
Yes,
But
somewhat.
but what do you think about self-reported attribution? Should companies also use it?
Yes, I think definitely. It's also like a low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
So just to explain what self-reported attribution is for for those who don't know, it's basically that you ask the user about where did they hear about you from. That can either be like a verbal question in a sales meeting, demo call, or it can be when people submits forms on your website, like I want to book this demo, and then you include where did you hear about us from. I think because it's such a cheap exercise and it gives anecdotes about how you make money, I would always advise people to run these self-reported things. When we tested it at our company on 100 demo calls, we
Hmm.
published a blog post about how what we found. We unfortunately found it to be rather useless from a scale perspective, because people, first of all, they don't know how they really got into your funnel.
Yeah.
They do remember a highlight, and it's also important to know the highlight. But typically, then you're also battling your own confirmation bias. So
Hmm.
we
Yeah.
just started a podcast, and I just want to see our podcast. And if 1 out of 100 says the podcast is there, then you say, "Oh, okay, look, the podcast is there."
Yeah.
So there's some confirmation bias you should be careful about as well. But then also we found examples where people type in, "Where did you hear about from us from?" and then they write Google.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
did you click something organically, or did you click an
Yeah.
ad? Which ad was it? Which page did you land at? What were you searching for? All
Exactly.
these things are not explained. So it can, for me, it's hard to make it directional, but because it's such a low entry fee to like get that data
Mhm.
point as well, I would advise people to do it.
Yeah.
And you do get these anecdotes that I met this person at this conference, I listened to you on this podcast, and it's not unvaluable. It's just be careful that you don't let it bias your decision about how
Yeah.
you make money.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't hurt, but
No,
yeah,
exactly.
you have to look through a thick lens at it, like if it really makes sense.
Mm.
And yeah, once you have that self-reported attribution, once you have all the data from Google Analytics, from Dream Data, let's say, so how can you use it to improve the customer experience?
Yeah, I think the good question here is really, yeah, in, what is the underlying why of why are we
Yeah.
caring about these things? And for me, it's a question of me, like I want to win, and the way to kind of win this game that we're playing here. And an easy tactic is to be aware about, if you won 100 deals last year, how did you win each of those 100 deals, so you can go out and kind of try to replicate some of the tactics that you know works.
Mhm.
I sometimes think about it as when I was a kid and playing computer games, you can get some cheat codes that you can type in, and then you had extra life or power or something like that. And like by knowing these 100 deals you won last year, that enables you to make much better decisions about what can we do next year. So that's my approach to it. By knowing what works, I can repeat it. And then the way to action it, I think about a bell curve or like a normal distribution. Um, and what the easiest things to act upon are the ones that are significantly poor, bad, or the ones that looks significantly good.
Mhm.
And then like if you constantly like try to get rid of those things that you can see, okay, this did not work at all, let's scrap the budget here, and then we have these 2 3 things that is actually working really well, let's funnel the budget over here. And if you constantly are in this cycle between, let's analyze the activities we do that get a lot of resources that is not working, and then pushing it into more safe bets where you do have proof, that should improve your
Mhm.
customer acquisition over time.
Some businesses operate mostly on relationships and their networks in general.
Mm.
And yeah, the sales conversations, that gaining new customers, it all happens offline.
Yeah.
So how can you track those things? So after
That,
every meeting, should you update just the CRM or what?
yeah, that's a good question, Felicjan. And to be honest, it's just harder. So I think I would really what's it called, recommend to do like company dialogues about how is it we make money. Like ask this
Yeah.
question around. How did we win this deal? Well, it's because I met this guy at this conference.
Mhm.
As in one person saying that, maybe another person also made one at the same conference, and then we then took them to this steak restaurant. That was the
Yeah.
good steak restaurant. So you need to constantly be asking the question and build that narrative in your company.
Mhm.
What is it like? Be deliberate about how we do things.
Yeah.
And if it's offline touches that matters, well, it can still be a deliberate tactic to do XYZ offline activities.
Yeah. Like I think that's where the friction point can come in between sales and marketing. That yeah, sales can go to conferences and just as participants, make lots of connections, and yeah, then they come and they say that they want the client. But marketing provided them with presentations, provided them with different materials, and
Mm.
they've built the online presence, they handled the website, and all that stuff that's happening around the brand. And they don't get recognition for that, for example.
Yeah.
And I think that somehow those teams have to be aligned, at least, yeah, make it clear that we are contributing to the same goal.
Mm.
Maybe our input isn't as visible as yours, but it's there.
Yeah.
And yeah, How often do you
I
think
think
should sales and marketing talk with each other in general?
every day.
Every day?
Yeah. Like there should be conversations about every lead that converts on the website. Was it a good fit or a bad fit? Where did it come from? Should we do more of this? Should we do less? Um, Besides the kind of everyday comment, then obviously I would say, like, whenever there's a weekly sales meeting, make sure that somebody from marketing sits there and listens to what is being said. Are the customers asking repeatable questions? Are they saying you have an ugly website? Like, because marketers think differently. Like salespeople think about this one to one. How do I close this deal? But the marketers are quite typically thinking about how can I do a one to many solution to this question that is coming in. And if a salesperson receives one question one time, that's probably just the tip of the iceberg of who else is interested in this. So maybe there's a tough question in sales. Let's write a really, really good answer for it in a blog post. So make sure you invite somebody from the marketing team. They don't even have to do anything. They should just sit and listen to what the salespeople talk about weekly.
Yeah.
And the same thing, you should have the sales team come in and present to the marketing team. Who do we like to sell to? Why is this a good fit? Is there any content that you guys are missing? Is there anything we can supply you with? Do you have enough leads? Like all these, I think it's about being responsible and making sure that both parties go into each other's departments, and whether that's physically or digitally, and ask these questions. Because you can only spend your company resources once, and you probably want that to be going in the same direction rather than being spent on two separate projects.
Yeah. Like it's all about helping each other.
It's super much, and and then everybody should know that the scorecard in a B2B company, that's sales. So that also means you should like you cannot discuss what's the score on the clock. It's what did we sell something or not sell something.
Yeah.
And that should the product team know, the CS team should know, the marketing team knows, and the salespeople's salary often depends on this as well.
Yeah. And Stefan, what would you say? What's the biggest takeaway from our conversation?
I'm pretty sure people will go think about, have we really aligned sales and marketing efforts enough in our companies, or can we get to know each other better? Is it time to go out and get drunk and share some stories between us? Because that will make you use your resources a lot more effectively if everybody is kind of just working towards the same goal. And a great place to start is by defining an ideal customer profile.
Yeah. Perfect. And who should I interview next?
Oh, I think you should interview my friend who's called Emil Christensen. He's the CMO at a company called Drip, which just acquired the company he co-founded called Sleeknote. And I think he has a lot of. It's one of those guys that I look for inspiration, and I think you'll learn a lot from him as well.
Awesome. And where can people find you? And please tell them more about Dreamdata and the problem you solve.
Yeah, so they can definitely find me on LinkedIn. That's where I also spend most of my time. And I'll happy to reply any questions they might have. For the product part of what we do, go to dreamdata.io. We've launched a Google Analytics alternative for B2B companies where you install it for free on your website, and it tracks the same things as Google Analytics, but everything is in a B2B context. So we care about companies, industries, size of the companies visiting your website, etc. And that can be your first start in kind of connecting your activities towards producing pipeline and revenue. But it's free to check out, and it would be cool to see some more people there.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so Stefan, thank you very much for today. It was great
Thanks
to
for
have
the
you as a
invite.
guest. And we'll see you on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Be a B2B Leader. If you liked this episode, make sure to leave a review in your favorite podcast app. Also, if there is something you would like to learn, let me know. After all, we are building a knowledge base for B2B.